I can't believe the American out of the two of us chose this documentary. When you said to me the other day, do you want to watch that I Am Celine Dion, now streaming on Amazon Prime?
Right.
I went, you want to watch a documentary about Celine Dion? I didn't even know you were a fan.
People didn't know I was a fan.
Well, you've seen her live, and from what I've heard is anybody that has seen Celine Dion live, even if they weren't a fan, became a fan.
Well, they just did a big survey of who people want to emulate as far as female singers, and she was second only to Whitney Houston. Right as I was getting into radio, I was still working at a restaurant, and the guy in the kitchen was always playing this one radio station, and her song, If You Asked Me To, kept coming up over and over and over. Yes, exactly.
Asked me to.
Yes.
She has so many hits.
Every time that song comes on now, I think of that restaurant and how greasy that kitchen was.
I always think of My Heart Will Go On. Like, you can't watch the Titanic without thinking of that song. I mean, that song made the movie almost.
Well, they reenacted that at the Bellagio fountain in the documentary, which is funny. Now, the documentary
she did
follows
carpool karaoke with James Corden.
That's right.
Yeah.
The last portion of her music career, I think nearly 2 decades, was spent in Las Vegas. She had got a big residency deal. When I was living out there, she landed that. And I went to see her on the opening weekend of that residency.
I would love to actually have seen her live. If you don't know much about what's happened recently with Celine Dion, I believe it was about 2 years ago, she made an official announcement to her fans that she has been diagnosed with an extremely rare condition. It's called stiff person syndrome, and it affects about 1 in 1 million people. So it's that rare.
Well, and it was a lot of people's introduction to the disease at all, because we hadn't heard of this before.
Now, she has actually been struggling and dealing with like smaller symptoms of it for years. She said it first came on about 17 years ago, and she hid it for as long as she could. She said that she'd do little things like if it would start to tighten everything up. She couldn't hit a note. She would just throw the mic out to the audience and have them finish a song.
Fake it till you make it.
She would change up the song set if it was something she didn't think she could sing that night. She would say she had an ear infection and cancel concerts. She was doing all sorts of things, and she was on an extremely high dose of Valium for years because the stiff person syndrome, what it does is stiffens all the muscles. So she said her lungs are fine, but it's everything around them that tighten up, so she just can't, and her neck, her throat, everything a singer needs.
She's constantly working with trainers to keep the muscles stretched out and do the right things so it doesn't hit her as hard as it could.
She feels like her music is everything to her. It has been everything to her since she was 5 years old and performing.
It was very authentic because she showed one of those painful seizures at the end of the whole thing. It was almost 10 minutes. It went on for a long time.
And she could have had that cut out, but she very specifically insisted that stay in because she wanted people to see what she goes through.
She told the doctor, now people will understand. I mean, it was hard to watch. This is some of it here. This is the pain she was experiencing. Muscles were all tightened up. Thank you to Celine Dion for being as authentic as possible with this documentary.
And like opening the world to what she's been experiencing over the last couple of years. She just scored another fan with me. I'm a huge Celine Dion fan. I found myself downloading a ton of her music after watching that documentary. It's 100% stream it for me.
I give it a 9 out of 10. It's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's available now on Amazon Prime.
I Am Celine Dion.